Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, all around the world. Good day, good morning as well, wherever you are. If you feel the need, please smoke some weed, eat a few mushrooms, drink a beer, smoke a cigarette, take a pee, whatever. I'm going to tell you a ghost story now. On Route 17 in New York State, we saw ghosts, my girlfriend and I. I was living in Wisconsin at the time, going to school, and I was living with my girlfriend for a few years, and we decided to take a Christmas trip back to the Hudson Valley to see my parents. So this was 1999, right before the year 2000. And we decided, instead of driving through Indiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and then back into New York, because Pennsylvania, sucks. That road is just horrible. If you've ever driven through Pennsylvania, you know what I'm talking about. It's long, it sucks, there's nothing around forever. There are rest stops, however, that's all there is. That's all there is a bathroom and a map. That's all there is. It's not like Ohio where you, there's all these rest stops and all these, lights above the roads and restaurants at these rest stops and arcades and all that kind of stuff. No. So we decided, let's drive up instead through Detroit, cross over to Windsor, into Canada, drive up to Toronto, enjoy a day or two, and then drive down through Western New York. Okay, so anyone who's familiar with any of those areas, you know what it's like. If you've ever driven from Buffalo to New York City, there's two ways or if you're not going to New York City or whatever, close to you, there are two ways of doing it. You can either take the thruway, which basically cuts all straight across upper New York State and then goes straight down, from Albany down to New York City, following the Hudson, along the Hudson River on the west side. So there's that route. Or you can take the diagonal route, the, a squared plus b squared equals c squared, or you could take the diagonal route from, let's say, Endicott-ish, and then drive down through Binghamton, and then, what else, what other towns are there? Owego, there's something Bluffs, I forget. And then you wind through the mountainy area, because before that it's sort of plainsy, high plainsy, the tier, right? So Route 17 at some point goes into the mountains, and you wind around these roads up and down. It's hilly and everything, and there's not a lot around. And anyone who's driven through there knows what I'm talking about. And this was before Roscoe. And this was before even the road parallels the river there. So let's say we got a late start that day. So at about the time that this thing occurred, when we saw them, it was, let's say, maybe about 10 o'clock, because about at that point, we probably got back into the Hudson Valley, let's say a little after midnight, maybe close to, 1 o'clock. I don't know, it depends. See, if you drive the thruway, you can go faster, kinda. I mean, you can't go too fast because there's a lot of state troopers. But if you go on, let's say, the back roads, I'm doing air quotes right now, through, the no man's land, you might go a little faster. It's a more direct route. Not really. It's all relative, I guess. So, okay. You get kind of an understanding of where we're traveling, how we're traveling, what we're doing. And it's about when this occurred. It was maybe about 10 o'clock. This was definitely after Binghamton, but before Roscoe. If anyone has driven Route 17, you know the world famous Roscoe Diner. Okay, this was before that, before you get to the, like I said, where 17 sort of follows the curve of the river. So, I'd just like to say that I've heard the stories of Devil's Curve on Route 17. This was not Devil's Curve. This is not any in that area of Devil's Curve. This is different area. But it was a curve nonetheless. And I've tried to spot it on a map, but it's difficult to get the terrain with the 3D mapping. I can't really visualize the area that we were driving through, but I'll explain it to you. Let's say you're traveling into a valley, and it's curving. You're traveling down into a sort of, not a deep valley, but a little valley, a hilly valley, and you're traveling, and it's sort of curving to the right. And then as you get to the bottom of the curve, and it swerves back up to the right. Okay? And it's sort of a lazy curve, not too much of a hook into it. So it's a easy drive. And it's about 10 o'clock at night. It's cold out. It's winter, December. And, you know, back in the day, there were no smartphones. So you either had, coffee and conversation or music on the radio. That was it. And, unless you want to turn on a light and read, but that's no fun for the driver. So I'm driving. She's in the passenger seat. And we see something very, very, very odd, which we didn't really think that much of it at the time. Some, those experiences in your life, if you've ever had experiences, weird stuff, where you'll see something and you'll go, huh. You don't really think too much of it. But we sort of realized as we were seeing this, as we were passing them, and we briefly afterwards, we looked at each other and go, what was that? That was weird. That was really out of place. Do you want to go back? No, that's okay. There were no cars around. If you know this road, sometimes there's like nothing. I used to drive it all the time when I went up to Rochester. And by myself, which, if you can imagine that. This road on the passenger side, so right as we're driving, it's on the passenger side, right on the side of the road, there's no barrier. And it's wooded, but this area where we saw what we saw was sort of, I don't want to say grassy, but it wasn't woodsy. So it was not necessarily a real cleared out area, but it wasn't, real lot of trees. There were trees, but there's a sort of area near the road that's not really tree-ish. And we're driving, and I'm slowing it down a little because I didn't know what was going to happen. We saw on the side of the road, there are no curbs, just the road and then the land, the dirt, the whatever. We saw 2 children just standing, like, right on the edge of the road. And, okay, that's weird. 2 children on the side of the road, 10 o'clock at night, just standing there. There was first a girl and then the boy next to her. The girl, she was younger, let's say maybe, I don't know, maybe 5. The boy maybe was, I don't know, anywhere from like 10 to 12. They were young, kind of like an older brother and a younger sister. I can't recall if they were holding hands, but here's the odd part, if this isn't odd already. They didn't move. In fact, if I remember correctly, it's not like they were even looking at the cars we were driving and then passing them. We noticed these two children were expressionless. They were just standing there with their hands down, just standing there, expressionless. Now, they didn't look pale or white or glowing or anything. Nothing like that stood out. What did stand out was that they weren't wearing winter clothes. It's cold out in December, especially up there in upper western New York State, in the hilly, mountainy areas. It's cold, especially at that time. They weren't wearing winter clothes, and that was one of the things we noticed. And I go, oh. And then, on top of that, the clothes they were wearing did not make sense at all. I recall we were describing it to my parents later that evening. We had to get the story out. I woke up my dad. It was almost 1 o'clock at night. And we were like, we got to tell you this. Put on a pot of coffee. We saw something weird. They were dressed like street urchins. Like from, I don't know, early 1900s, maybe before then. Definitely not Oliver Twist-ish, but, definitely old-timey. It could have been Oliver Twist-ish style. I'm not knowledgeable of old-timey fashion, so I can't really say. But I'll describe what they were wearing. The girl was wearing kind of like a petticoat or something, like a girl's, I don't know, I guess it's called a petticoat, but it didn't look like a winter coat, and it was open, and you could see her, blouse. And the other odd thing, she was wearing a skirt. They weren't wearing mittens, and they didn't have on muff hats. Even if they were wearing old-timey clothes, they did not have, they weren't prepared for winter. She had nothing on her head. I can't really recall the hairstyle she had. The boy had like a cap, and he was wearing a jacket, not a winter coat. And then the jacket was open. He had like a button shirt. And they, not only was it old-timey clothes, but like I said, they looked like street urchins from like an old Charles Dickens tale. They had, they were brown and gray and black colors to their clothes. The shirt and the blouse skirt were, I guess, lightish grayish color. I wouldn't say white, because they kind of looked dirty, to be honest, like a bum, like some homeless person on the street, wearing old raggy clothes. They weren't raggy, they just looked kind of dirty. I know this only happened in, let's say, a few seconds, even though I slowed down the car, because at first I thought, oh no, there's a deer, because you got to keep eyes out for deers everywhere in New York State, on the back roads or wherever. They can just jump out, no time. So we saw these two kids, and they're standing there. We're like, what are they waiting to cross the road? They didn't look like they were hitchhiking. They didn't look like they were doing anything except standing there. Maybe like they were waiting for something. I don't know. They never looked at each other. They never looked at us. They just were expressionless. And for the life of me, I have no idea what that was all about. It was really out of place, and like out of place, like the two kids there, plus what they were wearing, plus it just was odd as hell. And I still can't get it out of my mind. to this day, some 20 plus years later. Now, I know I've heard the stories. I did a little research back in the day, never found anything on the internet. I guess more recently, as this has come up in mind, I've heard of the Devil's Curve on Route 17. This is not Devil's Curve. I've seen photos of Devil's. This is not Devil's Curve. There's no inn or tavern or whatever or old. There's nothing around. Just forests. That was the other odd thing, that there are these two kids in the middle of nowhere in the forest in the middle of the night, and they're just by themselves. And after we got up the other side of the valley on the road, girlfriend and I looked at each other like, what was that? And we both sort of had the thought in our heads, like, should we turn around and go? Nope. No. We both were like, nope, no, keep going. We got to get back. We gotta go home. And, I don't know if anyone knows of what I'm talking about. If anyone has ever seen these two children, I believe that we saw ghosts, because definitely was not something normal in the middle of nowhere. Like I said, please let me know. Comment below. Tell me if you know what I'm talking about, if you have a story, if you know some sort of history. I've tried to do research on accidents, and it's really difficult to find some information online about certain things. You have to dig, and it's really a lot of times you come up with nothing if no one's written about it. There's nothing online. So, and I don't know people in the area. Maybe people at the Roscoe Diner have some stories about this. Maybe someone's popped in there one night and said, "Hey, what's up with the kids on the side of the road?" I don't know. Maybe it was an accident long time ago. But as far as I understand, that road, I guess they only made that road in the, 1800s? I don't know if it was late 1800s. I'm not even sure when that road was first put in there. But that's what we saw. Let me know if you've seen the same thing or know what I'm talking about. Thank you, and have a wonderful night, morning, afternoon, and keep your eyes open, and keep your ears listening, and keep those cat whiskers sensing, because you never know what you might find when you least expect it.